just here doing some research for our chats later this morning with Aaron Ross, reading his latest book together with Jason Lemkin called Impossible to Inevitable. And for those who don't know Aaron, he's a keynote speaker, entrepreneur, author of also the best-selling book Predictable Revenue, known as the Sales Bible of Silicon Valley, based on the Outbound sales system that he created at Salesforce as an early-stage employee. And he's also the co-CEO of the business Predictable Revenue. Aaron recently moved to Edinburgh with his family, and makes me wonder, what does someone like Aaron do in his mornings?
Oh, it's starting.
Right. Okay, Aaron's already here. Sorry, morning, Aaron. How are you?
Oh, hey there. Hey, Laura. Oh, great. Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me over.
Sorry, Enrique was just getting ready in the bath for you. I'm sorry that he's had to turn up like this.
Yeah. So, hey, we're all friends here. I get it. The whole pandemic thing. Everyone's a lot more casual with their Zoom wear now.
Yeah. So I forgot to get rid of this, but it was very convenient today because I was in the bath reading one of my new favorites, Impossible to Inevitable, which is a huge gift.
Love that book. Yeah.
Jason.
Favorite one.
Fantastic. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much for having a bit of breakfast in bed with us this morning. I'm sure it's great for people to see Aaron Ross in his bedroom in Edinburgh now.
Yeah, it's strangely quiet in here. It's never this quiet here. I'm not sure where everyone is, but they're not here for once.
Okay, well,
trust me, at night it is not quite. So yeah, so maybe I might get some sleep for once.
Fantastic. Right, so down to business. So at the moment, as we've already realised, we're all working from home. Yet the burnout rates that we're seeing with employees is rapidly increasing. So Aaron, from your perspective, where have we gone wrong and what do we need to do differently?
You know, I don't know. So I've worked remote for a lot of years, and so I am familiar with a lot of the challenges. I'm a little more used to them though, but I can tell that if someone hadn't been used to the loneliness to kind of like / emotional isolation, or if you have children or dogs, like how many Zoom calls now do we have children crying, screaming, breaking in, or dogs barking? It would be very stressful.
Yeah.
And also even for me, like for years, I've been been married with kids for 9 years now, and we have 9 kids, but the setting boundaries is always a problem between when I have work time versus family time versus me time, which is hard to do still, or romantic time. And so between all of these, it's a lot like to do. And it's only been 2 months, 3 months. So it surprised me how much burnout was going on, but then like there's a lot of adjustment people are going to, plus all the financial stress. Am I going to have a job? Is my business going to go under? My friends are struggling. So yeah, there's just a lot going on for people these days.
Yeah, and I've read somewhere that you have over the years perfected a very regimented number of hours a week, something like 25 to 35 hours a week. What can you share about how that's worked out for you? Has it been like family driven, or is it something you've subscribed to like since before growing a family?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't use the word perfected, but I would say that like 12 years, this is years ago, 10 years, 12 years ago, I was just doing a lot of self-reflection and ultimately came to the conclusion that for me, like the ideal number of hours of work per week were around 25. Mm-hmm. And that was really the idea of getting things done, but not working so much that I started to lose track of kind of bigger ideas. Because I noticed this when I worked 40 hours a week, I got more things done, but then I was like, where am I? What am I doing? So, I mean, it's not a scientific number, but what happened was even when I was alone, I stuck to that number roughly. And it was hard because, if I didn't have things to do, kind of my default was I'll just work. If I didn't have an answer, I'll just work. I just kind of would throw hours at things. And I didn't want to do that, which was one of the reasons I kind of put this boundary in place. And it got a little easier over time to just not try to do everything on the list. Say, look, I have enough time, and by having a fixed amount of time, then I have to prioritize what I do. I can't just kind of throw hours at the problem. And I have to think about what's really important, to be more strategic about how I use my time. Mm-hmm. And then as the family started growing, I couldn't work more than 15 to 25 hours a week. It's just because I'm a very active father. I want to be and I have to be for basic survival. And so it became, first was a choice and then it became a necessity. And plus, as the family got bigger, I had to figure out how do I make a lot more money without working more hours. So and some weeks it would be more like traveling. Mentioned like Brazil, maybe I have to work, I don't know, more than that. And some weeks were less depending on what was going on with the family. So again, it was this forcing function to force myself to be more creative ultimately with how I use my time and how I can accomplish things without just working more.
Yeah.
That was where it started from. But again, people who have families and work from home, it's something where ultimately, like if you kind of, for me, putting boundaries around time is really important as best as possible, because you know what, you can put whatever you put on the calendar, especially with kids. It's just not, it rarely happens the way you plan it. But so for me, 4 buckets. There's like work time, which now in the UK is from roughly like 3:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. for like calls.
Mm-hmm.
And separate from family time, which kind of everything else. And then like me time, exercise, walking, just playing guitar. I'm not very good, but I want to get better. And romantic time, my wife, which again rarely happens with this move. But there's like the 4 buckets. So whatever your buckets are is one place to start with kind of having some boundaries, so you can start to reduce some of the burnout.
Yeah,
Great.
It's really hard not knowing like what should I be doing, and like it's just not knowing if there's an end or beginning, and like where am I, what am I doing, and how am I using my time, and just being kind of like confused.
Yeah, which is how I think a lot of people feel right now, and where all of this talk about burnout is coming from. So appreciate
Fuck yeah.
you know.
No, I mean, has there ever been a more stress in the world and uncertainty, unpredictability?
That's right. Yeah.
Well, I think you can learn a lesson there. Add in some romantic time,
Right.
please, for your wife. Lesson from Aaron.
That will not be a problem. Trust me.
He's already halfway there. Look at the outfit.
Okay.
The hat alone.
But shifting from that into the world of business, I really like that the Impossible to Inevitable book is very much focused on not just leaders but founders, and also not just sales but marketing. And that marketing is the world. And it's the world that I'm in now, is the world of marketing. And one of the things that I've noticed is that customers now, obviously, well, for a while, have been doing a lot of research up front. And whilst it's never been harder to sell to them, it's also, as a buyer, never been harder to buy, right? So much on offer, so much information. So I'm really curious to hear from you, Aaron. What kind of activities do you think founders should be doing more of, specifically around building the brand, and kind of breaking through all that noise?
Yeah, well, I know there's a lot of people who say the buyers are more educated than ever, and maybe I feel like as a buyer, I'm more confused than ever because of the overwhelming flood of variety out there, right? With thousands of apps and channels and content and messages. So choice paralysis and overwhelm is a real thing. Mm-hmm. I think that my guess is most people would be in that camp, rather than feeling like, wow, I'm so much more educated. I know everything I need to know. It's like how many? There's probably 10,000 marketing apps alone now, and next year there'll be 15,000, and in 5 years there'll be 50,000. That's where the world is going. Mm-hmm. So what that means is that the more noise, and plus the more stress, because stress reduces our ability to make decisions and think through things appropriately. As a founder, the more focused and clear you can be on who your ideal customer is and why they should care about what you do, and the problems they solve or the feelings they get, and like who the best customers are and where you can make money or get value, and how they're different from the people where you're nice to have. Like that's really tuning your radio signal to be as sharp as possible is something that can help cut through the static and the noise, whether it's market overwhelm or it's just kind of fear paralysis because of everything going on in the world.
And Aaron, do you feel that founders more than ever now have a role to play in almost being their true authentic selves? And again, I guess going back to the first question where, here we are in our bedrooms, like how should a founder now really tell their story, their personal story, to really break through that sort of product features and function type sell and buy into the human?
Yeah, because if you think we're already in the world of, there's lots of great apps out there for whatever you need. There's not like one real differentiated app, most likely. There's probably like a lot of good ones. They're all pretty much similar, and they have similar. They all have. There's a bunch of great apps. There's a bunch of great copy, and so you all sound the same. You can have the best. You have great stuff, right? You all sound the same. So one thing that does still cut through the noise is personality and people. And I think the most underutilized asset and marketing asset of the company is the founder or founders, or at least people who have a strong voice at the company. It doesn't have to be a founder, but that's, you know, there's a magic to being a founder or CEO or C-level that a lot of people just don't have quite the same. And so the more that they can put themselves, and then just not enough put themselves in their own marketing, whether that's writing the blog, doing the video, doing the podcast, interviewing, being interviewed. There's a million ways that they can put themselves personally out there. There's a million reasons they don't, right? Busy, shy, what would I say? They don't want to hear me, da, 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 da. But if you can put the great messaging or good enough messaging combined with the personality of the person and the people of the company, then you start to have something that really is different, because especially when people are paralyzed and overwhelmed, personality cuts through. Look at Gary Vee is probably maybe the best example, right? It's Gary Vee. It's his person, his personality. But everyone can do that on some level, right? I do that on some level. You guys are doing it here, right? You're not just spouting the same words or the same copy. You're putting your own personalities into this type of interview style, into what you're doing here. You're just being you. You're like, well, this is kind of cool. Let's just do this because it's kind of cool. So other examples could be, you know, again, I call it unique genius. It's this combining these interests in what you care about and how you want to say it. But, or actually, if you have the book, this isn't even a blatant promo shot, but if you look at the cover of the book, you see that there's an art image, right?
Yeah.
I drew the art in the book. And a lot of people want to do, you know, if you want to do music, songs, you want to be outside, you have kids, you have all these things about your life that you also should find ways to incorporate into what you do, how you express yourself through work.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of those things that make you human, whether they're good or problems, and put yourself out there in the world. And again, that is something that will help. It's not the solution, but something that will help take your company and your product and your message and to actually amplify it and tune it for people.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
Founders,
completely.
especially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Completely agree with what you're saying there. Perfect. So then going on to the third question. So I heard on one of your podcasts that you were talking about this distinction between inbound, outbound sales, and outbound marketing. So for my own upskilling, outbound marketing is not really a term that I've heard of before. So can you enlighten me personally on what really that you mean by outbound marketing?
Yeah, and, you know, I think outbound marketing, I don't know if we came up with that or it might be out there, but I felt like, so there's Mina was our VP of revenue at the time, and we just felt like a lot of marketing people, like inbound marketing, like HubSpot, love them, and Marketo, I know the people behind them, and amazing. But the challenge is, like, too much of any good thing, you can go too far. So inbound leads can lead to a reactive marketing and sales culture. If a salesperson only gets inbound leads, and I've seen this, then you put them into a role where they have to kind of do outbound conversations. They don't know what to do. If they're not getting inbound leads, they're helpless. Like, oh, what do I do?
Yeah.
A marketing team. So there's so many ways of marketing, and you can, like inbound leads, you can be typically could be like content driven. There's no like absolute definition. To me, outbound means proactive, right? I'm going out to new markets. I'm going out to new people. I'm going out to start conversations. I'm not waiting for the phone to ring, and doing it in conjunction with inbound. So SEO, and outbound marketing often doesn't have to be, it could be paid marketing, but really you're trying to tap into new audiences, new conversations with people who don't know you yet. Again, being proactive.
Yeah.
So an example could be, more like, it could be LinkedIn ads or PPC ads, but tuned to audiences who probably don't know you yet.
Okay.
Or it could be reaching out to webinars, even to, again, people who, like, new markets where it's a conversation where people don't know you. It's different, kind of like outbound prospecting, right? You're starting conversations with people who don't know you. So the way your messaging is and your approach all has to be different than content driven marketing, where people are kind of getting to know you somehow, and before they come to you, they've already done some research.
Mhm.
So again, the best companies, you need to kind of do both, or at least be familiar with both, because you can't always wait for the phone to ring. And if the inbound leads dry up or plateau, because they always do at some point, then what do you do?
Yeah. And would you, in your distinction of different types of leads, where you've established the concept of seeds, nets, and spears, would you say that outbound marketing is still kind of like a net in terms of a lead, that it's, you know, volume over quality, in that sense, but it's just another type of nets lead?
Yes, and so the seeds, nets, and spears is such an important idea. And it's really, especially for any entrepreneur, or someone on board, is that, you know, there's 3 types of leads. Seeds are really leads driven through word of mouth. Love them, but damn, they're hard to grow. So probably the best way to make that into a predictable system is to have a customer success management function. So that's seeds. Nets are marketing leads, right? Sort of one-to-many, you're broadcasting. And this could, whether it's kind of inbound marketing or outbound marketing, or it's like one-to-many campaigns. And they're great. Hopefully you get a bunch of leads. The problem is a lot of them aren't going to be a good fit.
Right.
And the third type, spears, outbound prospecting or outbound business development. Typically you have a human usually, and they have a targeted list of partners or customers, and they're starting conversations. So those three types of leads are all different. I think the problem, one example problem, is a company, you've done 5 million in revenue. You had 5,000 leads last year, and you're like, okay, we need to double revenue to 10 million. We need twice as many leads. No, because if they were all word of mouth, you might need 10 times as many leads, right? Because if one word of mouth lead might be worth like 10 or 50 marketing generated leads. So it's just kind of like, know what you've got, so you can be smart about how you grow and how you analyze your company, and where growth comes from and where it doesn't come from.
I think it's really interesting as well in like the startup world, if you like, you know, where the founders done, you know, typical, you know, founders started doing the selling initially in the first year or so, get to, you know, that magic 1 million ARR number, but primarily that's been from their little black book of contacts.
Exactly.
And then we need to set up the engine, right? That we can then have the spears and the nets, because the little black book runs dry. So
it runs dry. That's why, exactly, when expectations are completely misset. One other time is same thing. You've had a great person doing marketing, and you've had all these, you know, marketing conversion, you've got all your metrics, and then you start doing outbound prospecting. And common mistake, you take a lot of your assumptions from the marketing funnel, like how often leads convert, and like deal sizes and sales cycles, and you kind of apply them to the outbound funnel. But with outbound, sales cycles could be, you know, twice as long, and conversion rates can be a lot lower. But outbound deals should be 3 or 5 or 10 times larger in deal size, right? So they're both great, but they're different. And so understanding the differences just makes you more easier to set expectations and plan appropriately, versus thinking that you only need twice as many leads. And no, it's probably not going to be the case. There, I knew there'd be. Bro, it's the second time today you found me. Hello.
And Rose, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay, so what would you like to be when you grow up?
Santa Claus.
Love it. Right, well, we asked you some amazing questions, Aaron. This has been awesome, and I think this has just been an epic way to end as well. That
My name is actually
a lot of people that know you are enjoying seeing this.
My
Can everyone say thank you and bye?
Bye.